Throughout history, millionaires and investors have shared their dreams of wanting to build large cities for their workers for one reason or another. Some wish to build towns around nearby businesses so that workers never have to leave to gain access to all of life's essentials. Others build towns simply for tourism or to provide nearby residents with more housing options. Though things don't always go according to plan, and countless towns are currently left completely abandoned all across the world. Today, we will be showcasing 10 of the greatest cities ever made that were later abandoned. But before we jump in, be sure to hit that like button and notification bell for good luck. You'll need it during these difficult times. Number 10. In June of 1944, Oradour-sur-Glane, a small village in France, became the victim of a horrible massacre that has been shared in countless history books over the years. The attack is said to have likely been the result of the town's supposed support of the French resistance during World War II, but this has never been confirmed. Hundreds of Nazis infiltrated the town and slaughtered the men, women, and children. The men were taken out by gunfire, with the women and children being stored away in churches and blown up with grenades and explosives. All of their homes were then burnt to the ground. Only a few people managed to survive the attack by pretending to be dead, then later fleeing into the nearby woods. The entire town was essentially wiped out overnight, and 642 people lost their lives. Nazis were truly relentless and had no concern for innocent human lives. They wiped this town off the face of the map without a second's thought. A new version of the town was later built a few miles away. The French president ordered that the original town be left as it was, serving as a monument for the hundreds of innocent people who lost their lives that day. A museum has since been opened up in the original town that serves as a reminder of the village that once was, housing artifacts and keepsakes that were taken from the burnt homes of those who were affected by the attack. Number 9. The beaches of Varosha, Cyprus were once a beautiful place to visit. Several celebrities visited the area over the years and spoke of how marvelous the beaches and waters were. However, in 1974, that changed dramatically when Turkey decided to infiltrate the area in response to a Greek coup. The innocent citizens of Varosha then fled the city, leaving their lives and belongings behind in hopes of making it out without being killed or taken hostage. These people believed that they would return to their lives after the war settled down, but that never happened. The city remains heavily guarded to this day, left to rot and decay, being reclaimed by Mother Nature. The town now stands as a time capsule from the 1970s. Restaurants are still open as if waiting for new customers. Shops are left unlocked, as well as victims' homes. Several areas of the town have been looted, but the city is largely left just as it was. It has been estimated that it would cost over $12 billion to rebuild the city to what it once was, and the local government has no intention of ever reviving Varosha. Number 8. Hashima Island, Japan. Japan is the home to many of the world's most powerful and successful businesses and corporations. Mitsubishi is one such company that planted its roots in Japan over 100 years ago. In the early 1900s, Mitsubishi was a well-established company who was in search of coal to extend their business's profits. They located a small island off the coast of Nagasaki, known as Gunkanjima. The island was developed by Mitsubishi after they had reason to believe that the island was sitting on top of a large coal deposit. They were correct in these assumptions, and Mitsubishi began mining the coal and producing over 400,000 tons of coal each year. They began opening up factories in the area and even helped to develop a town around the coal business. They helped the city form and flourish, with the city becoming so dense and overrun with businesses and buildings that it earned the nickname Island Without Green. As time marched on, the coal began to run low. Mitsubishi eventually closed the doors of the factory, and everyone who inhabited the city gradually left, largely because there were no additional jobs available in the area. The island was abandoned and left as a ghost town, and it has now been sitting vacant for over 40 years. Number 7. Pripyat, Ukraine. In April of 1986, a catastrophic event took place near the small town of Pripyat, Ukraine, that caused the entire world to stir, questioning our safety in regards to radioactive materials. A reactor at a Soviet nuclear power plant in Chernobyl exploded, sending a massive burst of flames and radioactive material into the skies, showering down on neighboring areas and contaminating an 18-mile radius with radiation. The town of Pripyat had been built to house the workers and scientists who had been employed by the power plant. Rather than ask these workers to drive dozens of miles to work each day, a small settlement had been created so that employees could live near their families and place of work with relative ease. After the blast occurred, it took rescue personnel 36 hours to fully evacuate all of the 49,000 workers and family members out of the area. This devastatingly long evacuation period led to many health concerns later in life for these workers, with many developing cancers or causing birth defects for future children. Soviet police eventually sealed off the 18-mile area and refused to let anyone inside. This led the small town of Pripyat to be consumed by the elements, remaining untouched by human hands for several decades. Only recently have Russian authorities allowed access to the area. This access is typically restricted to journalists and urban explorers who are documenting the area. The community of Pripyat remains abandoned to this day, and many aspects of the towns are left exactly as they were all those years ago. Cars can still be seen parked in driveways, tables are still set from dinner, and chairs are still crowded around the television. The entire town seems as though the workers left, anticipating they would return home one day. However, that day never came. Number 6. Bodie, California was once a popular town in the 1800s after it became known that a large gold and silver deposit had been found nearby. The city's population soared to over 10,000 within just a few years, leading to many small businesses, bars, and brothels to open up in the area. However, crime became a major issue very quickly. In addition to this, harsh winters began to strike the area year after year. This led to many of the city's citizens moving away, with the final members of the town leaving in the 1940s. Since then, no one has lived in Bodie, and it remains a ghost town, one of the most well-preserved ghost towns in American history. The town is now considered to be a popular tourist attraction, with many of the buildings now being open to the public for exploration. Number 5. Back in 1927, Henry Ford had an idea to build a town called Fordlandia. This town was built in the middle of the Amazon, with Ford using trees from the area to produce rubber for his car manufacturing plants. He began the town with a rubber plant, but eventually began investing in nearby buildings to give the town a more American feel. Numerous attractions were built to keep the workers busy after hours, but the town eventually began to crumble. Workers began to revolt, and Ford's dream began to fade before his eyes. He eventually closed the shop and sold the town to the Brazilian government for nearly nothing. Fordlandia remains an uninhabited ghost town to this day. Number 4. Carthage is an ancient town that was created by a group of colonists in the Mediterranean. The city proved to be very valuable and thrived until it was destroyed by the Romans in 146 BC. The entire city was destroyed, and many of its inhabitants were killed by Roman soldiers. The Romans then claimed the town as their own, and it became one of the most influential and important cities for over 700 years until it was destroyed once again by Muslims in the year 698. It has been abandoned ever since and now serves as an educational and tourist location. Number 3. Babylon is one of the most recognizable cities in history. The city was doing very well for itself before it began to dissolve into anarchy around the year 1180 BC. From here, the town was essentially abandoned until the 9th century. Much of the town's history has been lost to the steady march of time, and the town is currently abandoned and used as a tourist destination. All that remains is a mound of mud, buildings, and debris from years of decay. Number 2. Mesa Verde is a small village located in Colorado, home to the now famous cliff buildings of the Anarchy people. The town was built in the 12th century, with some of the homes having up to 150 separate rooms. By the 1300s, nearly all of the Anarchy inhabitants had left the area, but their buildings and homes remain in immaculate condition to this day. No one knows why the villagers suddenly packed up and moved away, but the area is still deserted to this day. Number 1. Pompeii was a beautiful and thriving city until August 24th, 79 AD, when Mount Vesuvius erupted and coated the entire town and its inhabitants in a thick layer of ash and magma. People were killed instantly, their bodies frozen in time forever. The town was completely encased in ash, being rediscovered sometime in the late 18th century. The bodies of those who lived there and their day-to-day lives were revealed to researchers as they began to slowly unearth people who had been sealed away, simply performing their day-to-day tasks such as cleaning, painting, or serving higher powers. If you're looking for a time capsule from nearly 2,000 years ago, look no further than Pompeii. This city has provided loads of information to researchers about how humans lived their lives many centuries ago. We are still uncovering many of the mysteries that are contained within the city of Pompeii to this day.